A new survey by Deloitte says nearly half of people who are in the age group often referred to as millennials who were surveyed said that unemployment was their biggest concern, followed by crime and safety. The survey shows that younger people, but people who are really of young working age, are particularly worried about not having a job. Also about corruption and corruption in politics. Systematic racism also part of this. Tumelo Seaketso is Director for Organization Transformation at Deloitte. Tumelo, good afternoon to you. This is a really interesting insight. If you look at our youth unemployment numbers, it makes sense. The biggest fear is that there's simply no jobs for young people. Tumelo, I don't know if you're with us. I was asking you, it seems to make sense that young people would be so scared of being unemployed if you look at our numbers.
Good afternoon, Stephen. Definitely, it makes sense that they are very concerned. If you look at the current economic conditions and the pandemic that has exacerbated the economic conditions, definitely it does make sense.
What I find so amazing about this is that when I matriculated over 20 years ago, I mean, I'm not a millennial, the front pages of newspapers then were telling people who, like me, who had just matriculated, there wouldn't be enough jobs. Since then, the situation has simply got worse and worse. It's got harder and harder for young people to find a job and to find that first job.
Yeah, definitely, look, I guess there was a sense where it seemed like it had improved. It was improving over the years, but indeed we have now regressed. We have now gone backwards, and as I indicated, the pandemic has even made it now even worse. As you can see from the survey, it was a survey both for millennials and Gen Zs. Gen Zs are the younger ones now who are just coming out recently. Who were born around 2002 to now, but that have started working. They're even more concerned about unemployment. And they even saying it doesn't even look like it will improve. You know, the conditions are getting worse and worse, to your point. So they definitely are saying we don't look like we stand a chance.
How big an issue is crime and personal safety? I mean, particularly just about being physically safe.
We have seen it a lot around the millennial. It was the second highest for them. Whilst the Gen Zs did not have crime as the highest second for them, they had, like I said, unemployment. They had economic conditions and then skills and development. But with the millennials, and this is typically your ones that were there before the Gen Zs, the ones are around 1994 to your let me say December 2002, those ones are definitely saying crime has affected us. But it is interesting being in the profession where I am in professional services, you even seeing sometimes that taking a step to say if I can even relocate somewhere where I feel it's safer for me and my family, I will do that. So we're seeing a lot of them even taking a step to say it's not really affecting me only, also, but I'll take an action when necessary.
Is there a gender difference in terms of how people view physical safety? I mean, do you find men or women are more concerned about physical safety and crime?
No, our statistics shows that both males and females, they are as equally concerned about crime. So it does not have a sense of a gender at all.
How important are issues around racism and I suppose what we would call systemic racism? In other words, the idea that there are structures which keep black people, young black people, out of the economy, make it harder for them to get a job or a first job, particularly than young white people.
So I think whilst we did touch on the survey around as you said, systemic racism, it was mostly around their perceptions of really, is business doing enough? Is government doing enough? And this is where one can mostly be able to respond to your question, to say the young ones believe that government and business are not doing enough in their own space to address such. And we're coming especially to business. They believe that business should be taking the forefront. They believe that it's only the activists that are really driving such the issue around racism, and it shouldn't be so. Business itself should take more active role in making sure that it addresses it, and to your point, then it addresses it within its corporate and within its own systems.
During the pandemic, we've been discussing more and more issues around mental health, how people are feeling, particularly if they're able to get through this. This was actually something that was becoming more of a conversation in our society. I think people were being more honest about it before the pandemic. Do you find that particularly with the younger people that you surveyed? I say younger only because they're younger than me. They're actually the majority of the country. Do you find that mental health has become a much bigger issue than it used to be in terms of how people talk about it?
Yes, definitely. I mean, globally, can you still hear me, Stephen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Globally, yes, we have found in the research that it was one of the biggest issues. But I think what was more interesting and what I've been cautioning my own colleagues around, Stephen, is the fact that, to your point around being able to express themselves even when they feel stressed, it is that ability for the society, for the employers, because this was more done within the working context, to create the psychological safety, that safety net for people to be able to express themselves. Because around almost 60% are saying we are experiencing this mental health issues, the stress, the anxiety, everything that has been brought on by COVID onto us. We're experiencing even beyond when we used to express it. But what was interesting in the outcome of the research itself was the ability for themselves to openly express to their employers about stress and talking about their anxiousness. And this is where we found that 60% had said that they were not able to, they did not find it comfortable to express themselves, which is a concern. So that psychological safety that needs to be created by employers becomes very key, and not only employers, but by the society, because only in that way can we be able to help our people.
Tumelo Seaketso, thanks very much indeed. Director for Organization Transformation at Deloitte. Do appreciate the time and the insight.